Okay, we're continuing here on the piece from Lacy Little Knits called the Diagonal Lace Shell, and I'm up to the second part, which is called Step 2, Right Side. And what I'm going to do is I need to divide my work. I'm going to assume that I've knitted this to the proper width. This is much smaller than the proper width, but for illustration purposes, this is already at the width that's desired, and I'm going to show you how to move on to the next step. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a tapestry needle, and I'm going to thread it with some waste yarn that I can use as a stitch holder. I like using the waste yarn as a stitch holder because the waste yarn doesn't drag as much as an actual stitch holder, which can weigh down your stitches and elongate them unnecessarily. So here I have my stitches on a circular needle, and I want to show you how my working yarn is the yarn attached to my ball of yarn, and that is actually going to be the side that I keep on working from. So I'm going to take my circular needle and move the other side over to the tip of the needle. And I'm going to count my stitches. In this example, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28 stitches. So I'm going to transfer half of them, which is 14, onto this tapestry needle where I've threaded waste yarn. So I'm going to take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now when you transfer, you'll notice, and you can double check your work, that the midway point is exactly that point between the center increase pair of the last row. So I'm going to thread those stitches onto the waste yarn, and I can just tie it to secure it so they don't go anywhere. I've pulled out the tapestry needle, and now they're just secured by some waste yarn, just like that. Okay? And then these stitches are ready to knit. However, my working yarn is here, and these stitches are at this end of the needle, and I need to pull them back, slide them all the way over to the other side so I can start to knit. Now this happens to be the side edge of my work, right here. This is the side, and this is the center. Okay, now this is the part where I think if you follow me closely, you'll be able to get your brain around this concept, because what you're doing is you're actually going to be creating a V shape along the center of your work and working to build the triangle in a new way. So let me show you how. The first row, I'm going to start by knitting all the way until I get to my center. Okay, I've knit across all the stitches. Now I'm going to increase in that first stitch. By knitting into the front and the back, and then I'm going to knit to the last 2 stitches. And then I'm going to purl them together, the last 2 stitches. And this will start to square off my side edge. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to knit. And this time, instead of knitting all the way back to the last stitch, I'm going to stop one stitch before the end. And as you notice, I'm only going to knit the first of that center increase pair from the previous row, leaving one stitch behind. And then I'm going to increase again in the first stitch. I'm going to knit to the last two stitches. And I'm going to purl the two stitches together in order to square off the sides. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to knit, and this time my center increase pair is 1 over. So when I knit that first stitch of the center increase pair, I've actually left 2 behind. And I'm going to turn my work. These are actually short rows because I'm not working the entire row. I'm going to increase in the first stitch. I'm going to be knitting to the last 2 stitches. And I'm going to purl them. Okay, let me do that again. I'm going to knit until I get to that first stitch of that center increase pair. This time, that increased pair is another stitch over. So I'm going to have 3 left over when I turn. And I'm going to increase in the first. Knit until I get to the last 2 stitches. And purl them. Just like that. Now once again, because this is multi-directional knitting, you're not going to see how the stitches look until you shape your needles like a teepee. So as I knit up to here into my last stitch of the center increase pair, I'm going to knit it, and then I'm going to hold my needles up, and you'll see I've left 4 stitches behind. I have this V form taking place here, where I'm getting a way to naturally form a V by leaving 1 stitch behind on every row. At the same time, I'm squaring off the sides. So it's a very interesting construction because this naturally formed V is going to be used later for the V neckline. So I just keep on going in that format. I would increase in the first stitch, knit to the last 2 stitches, and then purl them. Once again, knitting to the first of those 2 that I increased in the previous row. Turning. This time I've left 5 behind. Increasing in the first stitch, knitting to the last 2, and then purling. This exercise is just meant to show you the concepts, and I'm just going to take it off the needle so that you could see what it looks like, but it's not exactly how the patterns are written, so that there is some shaping taking place, so there's a few extra decreases going on in order to form the nice waist shaping. So you're not going to see that here in this exercise, but you are going to get a sense of how you shape that V neckline using the short rows. So I'm going to take it off the needle just to show you what's happening here. As you can see, this is how it's supposed to look. And when it comes time to start side 2, the second side, I'm going to have to take off the stitch holder, and I'm going to start my shaping right up here. I'm going to start to increase in the center again, and then decrease the last 2 stitches. increasing in the center, decreasing at the edge. So your sides are along here, and your increases, which are actually short rows, are along that V neckline. Thanks very much, and enjoy the pattern.